Hey everybody, what's up? It's Golden Cheese and it's time for your guide and first impressions for Riot's new champion Elise, which in my opinion is an amazing new Bruiser babe to the league. Now at first she was released and I thought she was gonna be like an AP slash assassin, which is pretty much what they kind of advertise her as, but I tried her out, and I even tried her in the jungle, and I tried to build her AP, straight up AP, and it just didn't work. I failed miserably. Like my first 4 games, I probably went like 1 in 10 on her as jungler, and I didn't really see any other APs doing extremely well in the mid lane. But then I got a suggestion to try her out top, and I got an idea for a different build. And after I was like, man, this AP build is just not working out, so I figured out how to played her in a bunch more games, and I think I have a pretty good idea of how you can be very successful on Elise, playing her in the top lane as a bruiser. So this guide should help you out quite a bit, and I'll give you my impressions on kind of how she stacks up in the league so far. So she's got really all AP scaling on all of her abilities. So obviously, building AP items is going to be the way to go on her. And once again, I did find that she was kind of a garbage jungler. It seems to me like on paper, like she should be really good in the jungle. I don't know. For some reason, I just couldn't make her work out. Maybe if I tried the other build, it would be effective and stuff. But overall, I think she is really good in the top lane because, when she jungles, she's kind of got low damage early on. She's a bit squishy. So it feels like she's always a little bit behind. And you want to get that farm. And she's really good at poking and harassing in the lane while still farming. So it just makes her a really good laner overall. Top, on the other hand, you have a much higher chance of outlaning all of the melee champions that go up there, and even the range on her spider form Q is long enough to get a decent poke onto the enemies that are ranged, even without putting yourself into too dangerous of a position. So what I find is that poking down in the lane, a few times from range gives you the ability to really jump in there and just take people down with your burst later on. Let me talk about our abilities and give you an idea of what they do and kind of how you can use them to get ahead in the game. So first off, her passive is when she goes into spider form, she gets all these little bitty tiny spiders that help do damage, and then whenever you lose those spiders when they die, you can refresh them by actually just casting abilities on champions in your caster form. And I think it works on creeps too, just casting the abilities overall. And so her Q is this little it's a targeted non-skill shot nuke that takes off their health based on their current health. So whenever they're max health, you do quite a bit of damage with that in caster form. It's just really easy. It's low cooldown. You just run up, pop it on them in their face, and it's no problem. And what I like to do is I'll Q and auto attack them once or twice if I get a chance to. And so anytime you get the ability to do in lane, just go ahead and boom, Q, auto attack. Make sure you don't miss any last hits, obviously, but use that. And then whenever you go to spider form, you'll actually be doing like execute percentage damage. So based on their missing health, you'll do extra damage. And the cool thing about the spider form Q is it's melee, but it's actually a really long melee range. It's kind of like a mid-range poke, and so you can really catch up to people and do a lot of damage with that, even from a safe range in your spider form, and you can really punish people with that. Your W is generally the starting spell if you're going to be jungling, which please don't, but you would max that second otherwise if you're not jungling. It's really cool in your caster form because it's this AoE homing spider, and you can kind of run around behind creeps, and if you click on the enemy champion, it'll kind of home on and chase them down, and they can't run from it. It's too fast to run from. So you can do pretty decent damage with that, and it's AoE, so later on once you max it at level 13, you can start farming down waves with it a little bit. And once you switch into your spider form, it gives you, at max rank, 140% extra attack speed, and then just a passive of 25% extra attack speed. So it's just really good overall for just sitting there in spider form and bam, 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 doing a lot of damage. And that's why I actually build Malady, which, I'll get to the build later, but Malady synergizes so well with this ability and just makes you so powerful. For now, though, take that one as your second skill and max it second as well. And then your E is more of a utility ability. You'll max it last because all it does is gain, reduced cooldown whenever you level it up. But it's actually a very critical ability to get good at using even though it doesn't do any damage, it's just so very important. So whenever you are in your caster form, you're going to use that E to both get engages started or to play defensively. If you're in the lane and you're playing against a strong melee and they jump onto you, you're going to need to use that to stop them in the tracks, pop out your QW burst, and then if it's safe, you can switch into spider form immediately, hit Q, and then run back. So there's a lot of stuff you can do while they're stunned there. You just need to make sure it's a very, very slow nuke, and it's going to be very frustrating at first until you get really used to it, because it's really hard to land at first. At least it was for me, being bad at skill shots. But once you practice with it and you start getting used to it, it actually becomes really nice, and you can land it a lot more often after a couple of games of playing her. And then whenever you switch into spider form, again, this spell was extremely frustrating for me until I got used to this one. But it's so very powerful. It's an amazing spell. You can do so much with it. You can use it defensively. You can use it to engage. You can use it to juke. There's so many things you can do with it. So what happens is if you click on the ground, you'll go whoop right up into the air for 2 seconds, kind of like you clicked Zanya's or something, and then you can click on an enemy champion or an enemy minion or jungle creep to leap to them and land on them. If you don't click on anything, she'll just fall right back down in the center where she started. But some really cool stuff to do with it is, you go in full on engage, and then when they're about to hit you with a skill shot or something, you can pop up in the air after you've used all of your burst, and then try and wait until the very end so that your cooldowns have time to refresh. Boom, jump right down onto the face again. Use the rest of your cooldowns and finish them up for the kill. Another thing you can do is you can kind of run away from enemy minions or jungle camps, and if you're being chased and you're gonna die, and then use that ability, and then they're gonna be like, oh, he's gonna fall right down in the middle. But no, you just jump right back to the enemy minions or to jungle camps, and you can escape that way. The cool thing about the E is that it actually gives vision of the entire circle that you jump up into, since you're way up in the air. I guess the idea is like, oh, I'm looking down on the world. So what you can do is you can see over walls and engage people that way whenever they have flashed over walls, or whenever you want to escape to maybe like the Wraith camp if you're on the other side. So there's a lot of really cool utility, and you just kind of think about that whenever you're using the ability. Overall, though, try and use it at the end of a fight rather than in the beginning, unless you just need to catch up to somebody to get a kill. For the most part, you're going to be using it at the end. But yeah, I mean, it's situational to use it at the beginning otherwise. And then finally, her ultimate is really just her switching forms. You get that at level 1, and whenever when you start to max it, it makes her a lot more powerful in her in her spider form. She's gonna be more armor and damage and all that good stuff. So obviously you're just gonna max that every time you get a chance to. All right, so we got the abilities out of the way. Let's go ahead and talk about her build and her runes and masteries. What I do with my runes and masteries is I'll go ahead and go for like an armor, magic resist, flat AP, and magic pen build on my runes. This gives me kind of overall defensives for the lane, as well as enough magic damage to be useful. And then on my masteries, I'll do a 21-9-0. And that way I have as much damage as I can in the offense tree, and then I'll go for that health and armor, since generally I'm in the top lane. Obviously, if you're going to be against a magic opponent, you want to probably swap that around for the magic resist. But I just have my preset up page with the armor and the extra health, which makes me stronger early on. And then for your builds, let me go ahead and discuss this with you. So you start off with your boots, 3 health potion to begin with, and that's just kind of standard. And then if you're doing really well in the lane, you're having a good early game, and you can get a Kage's early on, like 6-7 minutes, something like that. Go ahead and pick up a Kage's because it's nice. And I don't even really turn it into anything later. It's just it's just like building a flow. And since you're on the top lane, like that extra gold per 10 usually helps out. You're not going to be in a lot of team fights until a lot later, so you can generally get away with that. But for most lanes that you're not going to be doing well against, since I'll be perfectly honest with you, Elise is actually not that strong early game. She tends to really suck once other champions get all of their abilities, if you can't safely stay in the back and poke them down. But once you get a Malady, you turn into a freaking beast. So get that Malady as fast as possible. And then after your Malady's done, build the boots for your mashup. So that would be Ninja Tabby for physical damage champions, or Merc Treads if there's a lot of CC and magic heavy team. And then the next item depends on the enemy comp as well. Most of the time, you're going to go for a Glacial Shroud if your verse is enough physical damage. But if you have like 4 really strong AP champions, then you might go ahead and skip that Frozen Heart and go for an Abyssal, obviously picking up the magic resist portion first, and that'll help you, win out your lane against magic champions that you're against. But either way, pick up one of those two. And then instead of finishing up the Frozen Heart, if you started Glacial, go ahead and go for a Rylai's, because you want to go ahead and pick up, that health and that extra damage, and the slow utility is really nice on to Elise. So go ahead and pick that up. And then after Rylai's, finish off your Frozen Heart if you haven't already. And then if the game goes long enough, you can start working on Zhonya's, so you'll be even more damn annoying. And you're just like super hard to kill at that point, because not only do you have your little spider form leap, and you're stunned, then you have a Zhonya's that they have to deal with as well. I haven't really had many games that I got to Zhonya's and actually had to use it a few times, but if you do, that's nice. You're going to be super tanky, lots of armor, and really hard to kill, and super bruiser damage heavy as well. So playing Elise, there's a few different stages in the game. Early game, like level 1 early game, you're going to be actually pretty strong because you can poke down with 2 different Qs and auto attacks. So try and do as much of that as possible and really harass your opponents as much as you can. You really want to try and get as big of a lead as you can until they, get stronger than you, because most of the time they will get stronger than you until you get that malady a little bit later. So once they get to the point where they're a little bit stronger than you, just stay in the back and try and poke down with your Q as much as possible while last hitting. If they get aggressive against you, use your stun at, you should get it by level 3. Use that stun to block them from, really going full burst on you, and then use your QW to kind of burst them down. You'll run out of mana fairly quick if you keep harassing, which is okay. It's okay because you can switch to spider form, and that doesn't cost mana to use any abilities in spider form. You can poke down with that. For the most part, though, just try and play it safe. Don't get behind. Like, that's the main thing. Don't let them get a really big lead on you until you get your malady, and then you're just going to be able to beast everybody down. So just try and focus on auto hitting and getting those kills and stuff if you're against a weaker foe. And overall, the mid game for you really begins as soon as you get that malady, which is nice because malady is very cheap and it's not too difficult to grab that. It's got some very cheap components to it, so you'll build that up fairly quickly. And possibly, against harder lane opponents, once you grab your armor, that'll be kind of your mid game where you just go out full out on them. Once you grab a malady, generally, that's when you can really, poke them down like maybe just once, and then after that, just full on engage, hit your W, and just auto attack, and take them down really quick with the, with the help of your spiders, and then you can leap to them, finish it off, or jump in the air, get away if they're too strong, whatever the case is. And overall, since top lane relies a lot on ganks and stuff, you need to make sure you're always buying wards and placing those down so you don't get behind from getting camped by junglers and that sort of thing. But anyways, as you go into your late game, this is where, and obviously team fights and stuff like that, you definitely need to really save your spider leap for the end of fights, once again, because you're Bruiser and you're tanky, but at the same time, you don't want to just like full on engage with that leap. It doesn't do damage and it doesn't stun anything, and it just puts you in the middle of everything, okay? So for the most part, you want to go in, walk in, try and engage a fight with caster form by getting a stun off and using your Q and W to begin that damage. And then as you start to take hits, you'll have the rest of your team kind of jumping in as well, obviously. And then you've taken a few hits, but boom, you jump in the air as spider form, and then, oh god, they have to stop focusing on you, and they have to, try and break up their focus onto another one of your teammates. And at that point, you look around and you say, okay, who's the low health opponent, or where's the squishy at, where's their carry? Boom, you drop down on their face, finish them off with your cooldowns, and take them down. And that's kind of Elise in a nutshell for you. She's really strong at that, and once you get used to using her in that type of a playstyle, and with this build, you're going to be extremely powerful, and it's going to be hard for enemies to shut you down as well. So overall, I definitely enjoyed Elise after I got used to playing her. She is so super frustrating. She felt extremely underpowered. But if you can take my advice from this video and just be patient, you're going to be strong with her. And honestly, I think she's a really good champion in the league in this current meta so far. I haven't really tried her in 3s yet, but I imagine she'll be okay. If you can deal with you know, her very early game and not get behind, I think you're going to be able to really carry games a lot on her. In my last several games, I got tons of kills. Even the games that I lost, I was able to, you know, wreck pretty hard because she does do a lot of damage if you combo properly. So anyways, guys, thanks for watching my guide. I do have a full game commentary as well, so if you want to check that out from beginning to end and see how I play and my, you know, my thought process, go ahead and watch that and get an idea of what you can do all throughout the game. But please hit that like button, guys. Share this with your friends if they're, you know, new to the game and wanting to learn Elise as well. I appreciate everything, guys. Thanks for watching the video. This is Go Cheese. Peace out.